Ever heard the word derivatives and just kind of nodded along? It's a term that gets thrown around all the time in finance, and frankly, it can sound pretty intimidating. Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to break down what these things really are, why they matter so much, and who's actually using them. So let's dive right in. All right, let's try a little thought experiment. Picture this. You're a wheat farmer. You've got your whole crop in the ground, but harvest is still 3 months away. Now, you're looking at the news and you're worried sick that by the time you're ready to sell, the price of wheat could totally collapse, right? So how can you protect yourself from that? How can you lock in a decent price today for wheat you won't even have for months? That exact problem, that's why derivatives were invented. The answer to our farmer's big problem is a special kind of contract. It's a legal agreement that lets him lock in a selling price today for the wheat he'll deliver down the road. And that contract, yep, you guessed it, that contract is a derivative. The key is right there in the name. A derivative is a financial contract whose value is literally derived from something else. And that something else has a name, the underlying asset. Think of it this way. The contract itself is just an agreement. Its value comes entirely from the price swings of the asset it's tied to, whether that's wheat, gold, or a company's stock. And when we say the underlying can be almost anything, we mean it. We are not just talking about stocks here. As you can see, it can be hard commodities like gold and oil, it can be agricultural products like our farmers' wheat, or even coffee, or it can be purely financial things like company shares, bonds, or different currencies. Basically, if something has a price that moves around, you can bet someone has created a derivative for it. Okay, so we've got the basic concept down. Now let's pop the hood and look at the actual building blocks. We'll explore the different kinds of contracts and, just as importantly, the places where they're traded. Derivatives live in two main worlds. First, you've got the over-the-counter or OTC market. Think of this like getting a custom suit tailored just for you. It's a private deal negotiated directly between two people. On the other side, you have the exchange-traded market. This is more like buying a suit off the rack. The contracts are all standardized, and they're traded on big public exchanges. And this is a huge deal. A central group called a clearing corporation guarantees every single trade. That massively reduces the risk of the other person not paying up. So let's meet the big three contracts. Forwards are those custom-made private deals we just talked about, the original recipe happening OTC. Then you have futures. A futures contract is really just a forward contract that got a major upgrade. It's standardized so everyone's is the same, and it's traded on an exchange, which makes it super easy to buy and sell. And then you have options. Options add a really cool twist. They give you the right to buy or sell something, but not the obligation. That little bit of choice, that flexibility, is a real game changer. This table really nails the key differences between forwards and futures. With a forward, you're always dealing with what's called counterparty risk, the worry that the other guy might not be able to hold up their end of the deal. They're also kind of hard to get out of. But futures, traded on an exchange, solve those problems. Because they're standardized and guaranteed, they are much, much safer and way easier to trade. So now we know what these things are, but who on earth is actually using them and what for? Well, it really boils down to three main types of players in this massive market. So, who are the people diving into the world of derivatives? They pretty much fall into one of three categories, and you'll see that each one has a very different goal in mind. First up, you have the hedgers. Our farmer from the beginning? A classic hedger. Hedgers aren't trying to get rich. They're trying to sleep at night. They use derivatives as a form of insurance to reduce or even eliminate a risk they're already exposed to. Think about a big company that knows it has to make a huge payment in euros in 6 months. They can use a derivative to lock in the exchange rate today so they don't get a nasty surprise later. Their goal is security. Next, we have the speculators. And these folks are the other side of the coin. They are the ones who willingly take on the risk that the hedgers are so desperate to get rid of. Their goal is simple: to profit by betting on which way prices are going to go. Now, it's easy to see them as just gamblers, but they play an absolutely crucial role. They provide liquidity, which means they make it easy for hedgers to find someone to take the other side of their trade. And finally, we have the arbitrageurs. You can think of these guys as the market's efficiency police. They are constantly scanning different markets for tiny, tiny price discrepancies on the exact same asset. They might buy a futures contract on one exchange and, in the same split second, sell it for a fraction of a penny more on another, locking in a tiny, risk-free profit. And by doing this over and over, they actually force prices to be consistent everywhere, which makes the whole market work better. Okay, so we've got all these different players interacting in these huge markets. But what's the bigger picture here? What's the economic point of it all? Why are these markets so important?
Derivatives markets actually perform a few vital jobs for the entire economy. The first is something called price discovery. The prices of futures contracts give us a collective, real-time snapshot of what the market thinks prices will be in the future. Second, and this is the big one, is risk transfer. They create an incredibly efficient way to move risk from those who don't want it, the hedgers, to those who are willing to take it on, the speculators. And third, they actually promote stability by bringing these trades out of the shadows and onto organized, supervised exchanges.
Now, for all their amazing benefits in managing risk, you simply cannot talk about derivatives without also talking about the risks they create. Make no mistake, these are powerful, double-edged swords. The key word you have to understand here is leverage. With derivatives, you can control a huge amount of an underlying asset with just a relatively small amount of money up front. Now, this can amplify your profits massively if you're right, but it also amplifies your losses just as powerfully. A small price move against your position can wipe out your entire initial investment, and in some cases, you could end up owing even more. And that really brings us to the final big question. Are derivatives essential financial tools that help businesses manage risk and keep our economy stable? Or are they just instruments for high-stakes gambling in a giant global casino? The truth, as we've seen, is that they're kind of both. They are incredibly powerful tools, and their ultimate purpose really just depends on the goals of the